This is a decision that every FPS game has to make, and it is between bloom and recoil. Greetings and salutations, everybody. I'm Encouraje. If you played any other FPS games other than Fortnite in the past, you might know that not every game decides that they want bloom to be the aiming factor that is what decides how guns work and how much skill it takes to aim. Bloom is what most Fortnite guns have, which is where, like with most ARs and SMGs, hello, hold on, let me fight this guy real quick, then I'll explain this. There we go. That guy is now dead. I fried him. He's 20 health if I only hit that bomb shot. We travel to the awesomeness that is sleepy. I will explain. The bloom is what Fortnite has, for the most part, chosen, and is when the bullets don't go exactly in the center of the crosshair, or on the dot in the center of the crosshair, or whatever the center crosshair is. Bloom is when the bullets go around and in that general area of where, like an AR, the more you shoot, the bigger the spread goes. Those like 4 lines around the circle in the center, and that spread determines how far out the bullets can go, as you see when you're shooting. And even if the center dot is on their head, those bullets could be going anywhere but their head. That is bloom, and as you can imagine, it works the other way around, taking away skill, where even if your crosshair is near them but the center dot isn't exactly on them, the bullets can still travel towards them and hit them even if your crosshair isn't perfectly on them, which removes an element of skill from gun battles in Fortnite. However, that does make it easier for new players to get associated with the game instead of hopping into a game getting beamed by anybody who's played and aimed for more than a day. But can you imagine a time where pro players are just not missing a single shot and people are dying even faster than they are now? We saw this a little bit in action when they added the MK7 to the game, where everybody was using it because they thought it was so awesome because of the red dot sight. What is a red dot? Well, it's on this gun too. The bullets, if I just keep shooting, the bullets will not go anywhere but where the red dot is pointed, no matter how much I shoot, compared to an SMG or like a regular AR, where the bullets will go anywhere in the spread. As you see, if I walk up to this wall, they'll go anywhere in the spread of that. They're not necessarily going to go directly in the center. Compared to with red dot or a recoil-based system, where the bullets will just go exactly where the red dot is, and sure, it takes a lot more skill, but it's a lot more rewarding and more skillful when you actually do hit shots and kill people. However, this does make it very hard for new players to come in, because as they're getting into the game, they are being... Oh, you dare shoot those. As they're coming into the game, they are going to get fried by any good player, because the good player has been aiming for a while with that recoil, has learned how to control it and deal with it, and still hit plenty of shots with it, even when the recoil is there to help them hit fewer shots. And this is why more skilled players were loving on the MK when it was originally added, because they either knew how to control the recoil from other games, or had the mouse control developed to control the recoil, and then just had to keep their crosshair on the opponent, which was not hard when they've been doing that for years with their other AR. Generally, new players and less skilled players did not enjoy the MK as much because it took a lot more skill than the standard bloom based weapons to use. I have no match for this. And he is just worse. My aim is just better. But yeah, that's the basics of bloom and recoil, the systems that they create, and how they can affect a game's players, and how the game can grow. This is something I haven't heard too many people talk about, but I think one of the major reasons Fortnite actually grew to its popularity was because it was so easy for new players to enter. Today you could argue differently, because most people know how to build, and if you're a new player, you might get into a game where somebody walks up to you and they just start cranking it all over the place, cranking 90s all up to the Eiffel Tower's height and that kind of stuff. But another legendary revolver! I found one of these in the other video. Second one this season within like a week of each other. Nice. It can be harder for new players to get in when building is here, but earlier in chapter 1, when people weren't building as much, or even further into chapter 1, when building wasn't too advanced, you could still spend a couple minutes in creative or playground at the time and figure out building real quick. It was a lot easier for new players to come to the game, not only because building wasn't advanced, but because the aiming system was so simple and not as skill-based as other games are. If you go to a game like Apex Legends or Valorant, the aiming is a lot more recoil-based. Because of the aiming system, it can take a while for new players, especially if their first game is Valorant or Apex. They can be harder for them to get used to the aiming system and stick into that game, try to get better at the game, because it is a harder aiming system to get indoctrinated into compared to recoil, or compared to bloom, sorry, which is a lot more luck-based and easy for new players to learn. Like I said earlier, recently Fortnite has been experimenting with recoil-related weapons, such as the MK and this one that I'm holding right now, which is the, whatever it's called, Striker AR. But yeah, Fortnite's been experimenting with these bloom-related weapons, or the recoil-related weapons, where it's a lot easier to hit long-range shots and that kind of stuff, because the bloom isn't throwing your shots away and taking all that that amount of skill away. The recoil recoil lets you hit those longer range shots with more ease compared to Bloom, unless you're going to tap fire or something, which is a way you can get around Bloom just by tap firing and not spraying as much. But I need to get into that now. Yes, I just said needn't, don't ask. Now, the decision a game makes between recoil and Bloom can heavily affect the way the game is played, as in like how fights are taken and the ways you take different fights, at what ranges you might take fights, like I just mentioned with the Bloom problem. And it also heavily affects... Dude! But it can also heavily affect the skill gap of a game, the distance, like the amount of skill between the top player and the bottom player, or like the top group of players and the bottom group of players and that kind of thing. How far and how much work you have to put in going from like a low player to an average player to a top tier player. And it can also affect the skill cap of a game, which is the topmost point of skill where you cannot get any better. That's the skill cap of a game, and can be affected by Bloom and recoil by making gunplay more difficult to master. Speaking of recoil, that was some terrible recoil control. And just aiming in general, not necessarily recoil. We're now going to take this fight and see if I can outplay, outwit, and outlast this friendo. I shot before him! Wait. Ping diff. Literally ping diff. Get ping diff. You saw that. The recording. You saw that. I literally shot my gun at his forehead. And it did exactly 0 damage. I got ping diff. Let's go. Fortnite decided to crash, and then I thought it was still recording, so I record another game, but it wasn't recording, so we're going to do another game now. I gained some hype, which is Pog, but we're gonna get another game out and keep explaining this Bloom versus recoil thing. Alright, we're gonna go ahead in some sleepy direction. It's gonna be great. It also has a big effect on the competitive and casual aspects of a game. Generally, a game with a more casual audience and is looking to go into more the casual route will opt towards a Bloom-based gun system, whereas a game looking to get more into competitive usually goes for the recoil-based system. Fortnite, as you have seen, is basing itself on a Bloom-based system and leaning more towards the casuals. And you might not know this, but Fortnite actually was meant to be a casual game in its genesis. Originally, they weren't intending for building to become what it is now and to get all this skill that evolves from having building the game the way it has become. Fortnite originally intended it for it to be, like it shows in the original trailers, you're building forts, not cranking 90s and doing high ground retakes and all that kind of complicated stuff. They never thought that would happen, but it's progressed to so much more than that, and they've experienced with recoil-based weapons, as we've seen with the Combat MK7 and the Striker. But generally, it has stuck to the Bloom scheme, where it is leaning more heavily towards guns with Bloom, because those make it easier for new players to come to the game, and decreases the skill gap between newer and more veteran players, even if it's a slight difference. Hello, Sire. You are doing so swell, I can tell. Let's go. Yeah, Fortnite has erred towards the casual side, and this is not the only area which has done this in. Fortnite has gone casual as far as the loot pool goes. We've seen it stick to a more fun loot pool generally, especially in Chapter 3, where the SMG meta has been big and shotguns haven't been as powerful as they were in the past. They even nerfed pumps when they weren't even in the actual game, just to show that they really wanted to err away from the shotgun more skilled meta and go towards the casual, more SMG and spray-based meta. Now, what Fortnite should do, in my and many others' opinion, is split the loot pools, meaning casual and competitive don't necessarily have to have the same guns as each other and can have entirely different guns or different metas, and the metas don't have to stay the exact same in each game mode. Maybe arena and competitive is more of a pump-based meta, and then casual is more of a spray-based meta, where it takes less skill to get kills, but can be more fun with shockwaves and random items like that, which make it more fun, like grapplers or whatever fun items there are that they can add, porta-forts and that kind of stuff in casual. Whereas in competitive, they would have less of those more fun and goofy items and would keep it strictly to more skill-based items, such as the pump. And that would establish comp in another box fight-based meta, which is a lot more skillful than what we have now, which is a lot more spray-based. I'm gonna go to Beeble. I'm tired of having a giant gray spot on my map. But yeah, this decision can affect casual and competitive, as I said. Lazy Lagoon, here we go. Oh, this was from Chapter 1! Yo, that's clutch. I remember this place back in like Season 8 or whatever. But yeah, even as building was developing in early and mid Chapter 1, I think that had Fortnite chosen a more recoil-based system where they're trying to go into the competitive state, they might not have experienced the amount of growth that they did because there's a bigger barrier to entry, whereas with the more Bloom-based system, players can more easily get enthralled and interested in the actual game. You know what? I'm going to set a like goal for this video. If the video is not at 20 likes, click the like button. And even if it is at 20 likes, get it higher. It's free, takes like half a second off your day, and is totally awesome. 10 players left in second circle, let's go! I didn't want to fight anybody anyways. Did I hit him there? I don't think I did. 30? How do I hit him for 30 and he hits me for 13 million? I missed that. I died to Storm. Thanks for watching. Over, like, subscribe if you enjoyed. Also, click here to see me talk about what happened in Fortnite's Battle Passes.